Greetings, sales pros. And you are a sales pro. If you're watching this video or any of my other videos, it shows that you're interested in improving and getting better. And that's what top performers in any field do. So good job and keep it up. The last video focused on the current state, which is whatever your customer has or whatever they're currently doing. Things such as what their existing solutions are, how they acquired them, what their growth rates have been, what their top goals are. An accurate current state is the foundation for great business cases, and the process to create the current state drives incredibly tight alignment with your customers. If you haven't watched that video, I've included a link in the description. Go check it out. Something really closely related to the current state is the current state financial model, sometimes called business as usual financial model. The current state financial model shows what the customer's existing environment looks like financially into the future, usually 3 to 5 years. And while that sounds relatively simple, knowing what to include and what's really important to include can be a little bit tricky, especially if it's your first rodeo. And you also might be wondering, why should I take the time, spend the time to build this current state financial model? And there's actually multiple reasons. First, purchases over $500,000 require your customer's CFO's approval. And if you don't believe me, go ask them. And they're going to want to see what the existing environment looks like financially so that they have a baseline that they can compare anything else against, such as what you're proposing. Another reason the current state financial model is important is that it allows you as a sales rep to see how whatever it is you're proposing compares against what the customer's currently doing. Maybe you can sell your deal for more than what you originally thought you could, and that's called value-based pricing, and it's what a lot of really high-performing, top-earning sales reps do, especially for large, complex deals. Or maybe you need to get more aggressive on the pricing for the deal to make sense, which gets to the third reason current state financial models are important, which is being able to show and justify to your own sales leadership or finance leadership if you need their approval on the pricing or any other aspects of the deal. And this becomes increasingly important as the deal size and complexity increase. You know, going to your sales leadership or your finance leadership with just a quote or a spreadsheet, point-in-time spreadsheet with pricing is like going into a battle unarmed. You know, good luck getting them to approve that. Okay, so what should go into this current state financial model? I'm going to talk through a simple example that hopefully you can all relate to that'll lay out some of the key concepts and considerations when you're building the current state financial model. So in your own personal life, you have income and you've got expenses, bills that you have to pay. And businesses are the exact same, right? They have revenue, income, and they have expenses. In your own personal life, you have expenses like your house payment and your car payment and utilities and insurance and food. And I have my Hulu subscription, which I absolutely can't live without. The current state financial model is simply taking those expenses, those existing expenses, and projecting out into the future what they're going to look like, again, usually over 3 to 5 years. For example, let's say that you have a car lease and it's $500 a month and there's 2 years left on the lease. So you know that for the next 2 years, you're going to pay $500 a month or $6,000 a year for year 1 and year 2. So the current state financial model would have that $6,000 for this year and $6,000 for next year. If our financial model is for 5 years, then you have to think through what would realistically happen in years 3, 4, and 5 when that lease ends. You could potentially extend the lease, maybe at the current $500 per month, maybe it would be something different. Let's assume it was $500 per month, and you would just show in your current state financial model that that $6,000 would continue, assuming you could extend it for years 3, 4, and 5. You could also potentially buy out the car at the end of the lease term. And let's just hypothetically say it's $25,000 for the buyout. And so in year 3, you would show that $25,000. Another potential option would be buying the car out at the end of the lease term, but then financing it. Maybe we finance it over 48 months and it's $600 a month if we did that. So we'd put that $7,200 per year for year 3, 4, and 5. Another option would be replacing your current car with a newer version of the same car. Maybe you had a Honda Accord, replace it with a newer Honda Accord. And then there's also the option of not replacing it at all. Maybe the car that you have was for your kids. They've graduated from college, they're off on their own, hallelujah, and they bought their own car. Or maybe you're thinking, screw it, I'm just gonna bike everywhere, I'll get in killer shape, I'll rock some spandex shorts. So in any of those options, years 3, 4, and 5 would have 0 in them. But realistically, those are probably less likely options. So any of these great options that we talked about could potentially be in your current state financial model, which is an important point. There's almost never a single perfect current state financial model because there's too many assumptions and variables about what could potentially happen in the future. And assumptions are a key part of any type of financial modeling. You might want to create multiple current state models to simulate different potential future scenarios. Another key point from this example is that we just focused on a certain area that was relevant. In this case, it was the car. It wasn't my Hulu subscription or house payment or utility payments. Same thing when you're building these for your customer. Your customer has tons of expenses. You want to focus in on the ones that are most relevant to the type of opportunity that you're working on. Which gets to another point, which is making sure that you're including all of the items that are relevant to the type of sales opportunity that you're working on. Going back to our car example, there are other expenses associated with the car that we might want to include in our current state financial model. Things like gasoline expenses, insurance expenses, maintenance expenses. Which gets to my final point, which is the current state financial model is definitely not something that you want to just whip together and throw in front of your customer, the big reveal, when you're trying to close a deal. You have to involve your customer and get their input and feedback on it, probably multiple times. And you want to know something that is super powerful, but only a tiny, tiny percentage of the very best sales reps do? It's presenting and getting validation from your customer on the current state financial model before you build anything out or propose anything to your customer. Like I said in the last video, think of yourself more as a consultant. And the current state financial model is part of a deliverable that you're giving your customer about an assessment about what it is that they're doing. So you're not really trying to sell them anything. If you do this, you'll not only get extremely tight with your customer, you'll also know exactly what their financial picture looks like, and they validated it really early in the sales cycle, which can help qualify the opportunity. But even more importantly, it can be a key input into your solution design and the proposed pricing for whatever it is you're selling. And this is the information that you can take and use to help optimize whatever it is you're selling for both you and your customer. Things like lowering short and long-term costs, improving cash flow, addressing existing or overlapping expenses, all while maximizing your deal size and revenue and profitability. It's a sales superpower. You can't accurately do any of these things if you don't have the current state financial model built out. And most of these things are very, very difficult to do if you've already shown your customer the pricing, which is why you want to hold off on that and get the validation on the current state first. That was a lot of content, a lot to absorb, and I'm going to wrap this video up here. In the next video, I'll walk through building out a couple current state financial models for a couple different types of sales opportunities. It's going to be a ton of fun, so be sure to check that one out. Thanks for watching. If you learned something or got anything out of this video, please be sure to like it and share it. And please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of this exciting content. In the comments, let me know how you're approaching the current state financial model with your deals, or if you have any questions related to this topic, or if there's anything that you'd like to see me dive into in future videos. See you in the next one.